Good evening, race fans, and welcome here to Iowa Speedway tonight for the Iowa 125 Season 1 finale here in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. My name is Robert Hill Jr. Joining me, as always, is Wyatt Knadle. Wyatt, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. We're going championship racing tonight, Robert.
Absolutely. As we take a look at the Pit Pass Network pre-race report here, 125 laps around the circuit, no stages tonight, just 3 sets of tires, and we are racing under the lights. As you see there, the title fight, Chris Wright currently leading by 15 points over Ethan Stanley. Wyatt, let's take a look at the points here tonight just to see where we stand. As I said, Chris Wright by 15 over Ethan Stanley. William White 50 points back. He's in a battle for third with Hunter Smith and Mark Murphy. They are only separated by 10 points. As we pull up our starting grid tonight, Wyatt, why don't you walk us through the top 10?
Absolutely. Starting on pole tonight is Mark Murphy in the 69. Outside of him, Ethan Stanley in the 91. Hunter Smith is in third with William White outside of him. Chris Wright going to be the last car in the top 5. Michael Hosack in 6th, Brandon Ultra 7th, Jay Kaner in 8th, David Carpenter in 9th, and Rory Collins in 10th.
Taking a look at the 11th position is Robert Smith alongside Andrew Hardcastle there in row number 6. Just behind them, Ray Bracey and David Dunwoody rounding out the top 15. Michael Goodman with Mark Rabilis, Tyler Skordensky, Mark Keeler, and Joshua Personette rounding out the 19-car field here tonight at Iowa. One thing to point out, Wyatt, we did things a little bit differently here tonight. We was kind of my mistake, but we actually had group qualifying on the circuit tonight, so everybody did qualify together, making things a little bit more interesting in practice or in qualifying to set up for our season finale tonight. One thing to point out here, as you did see on our grid, those in green, Ethan Stanley and Chris Wright, are our 2 championship contenders here tonight, and you'll be able to follow that along all night long on our scoring tower as the pace car is sitting on pit road awaiting the remaining drivers. Here we go. They are exiting the pit lane now, so here comes the field leaving pit road. They will be, I do believe, 17 cars deep, actually 18, with Keeler and Skordensky rounding out the field tonight. I do believe Mark Rabilis will get himself an EOL penalty, end of longest line, due to a banner violation, as Tyler Skordensky falls to the rear as well. Very quick pacing here as we're actually about to hand it over to Barney the Flagman already to get us going here. 125 laps to follow here tonight. Actually, I do stand corrected. Pace car going to stay on the racetrack for one additional circuit here to get things set up, get ready to go here tonight. Why don't we go ahead and get started with some race picks here? We'll start with you.
Well, man, I'm going to shy away from the championship, boys. I don't want to jinx anybody. We're pretty good at it up here at jinxing people. I'm going to go with Hunter Smith tonight. He's starting in 3rd. I believe he won a race earlier in the season. Done pretty good. You know, he's in the top 5 in points, battling for 3rd here tonight in points. And I think he's going to get it done tonight.
I'm not going to go too far from Hunter Smith. I'm going to go right to his outside. I'm going to go with William White, our British import driver here in the pitpassnetwork.com ARCA series. He's got to get it done. He's been so close countless times. If he can save his tires, I think William White is going to be one to watch here tonight. Pace car is off. We're going to go up nice and high here. We can see that Geico restart zone. Green flag is out. Mark Murphy leading the charge here as we do get underway.
Yeah, and it looks like Ethan Stanley got a great jump going into turn 1 here. So being able to stay on the outside of Mark Murphy. And, Mark got a little loose there. He's going to give up the lead right away.
That's one thing that Chris Wright pointed out during practice. The looseness very apparent here tonight and is really showing how tough it can be. That's something to watch all night long. just to pay attention to who's getting loose, who's really being able to save their car. Hunter Smith goes for a little bit of a slide up the racetrack there ahead of Michael Hossack, maybe grazed the outside walls. We see Chris Wright entering the picture here. He's currently running in the 5th position, making a pass on Hunter Smith for 4th, and has his eyes set on William Wyatt. Looks like we had a moment for Andrew Hardcastle. He's able to get his car going once again. He's going to lose a ton of spots all the way back to that 16th position here, as lap number 3 is indeed underway. Ethan Stanley leading the race currently over pole sitter Mark Murphy, who's falling back to the clutches of William Wyatt. Hunter Smith and Chris Wright here as those two battle for the 4th position. Chris Wright with a bit of an upper hand here on the bottom as Michael Hossack closes in on Hunter Smith.
Yeah, and a guy who's already charging through the field. He was really fast in practice. It's the 7 car Ray Bracey. A little bit different colors tonight. You know, we're used to seeing a nice picture of his cat on the car. Seems like we ditched that for the finale here, and we're going to throw a sponsor on there of, I believe, what is that, Firefly Distillery?
That's right, Firefly Distillery on board the Bojo machine, Ray Bracey. Another beautiful paint scheme, very reflective in the lights, looks really, really spiffy out there, and best of luck to Ray, one of the nicest guys in the garage area, and I would love to see Ray Bracey somehow pick up the victory here tonight.
Well, and he's got the speed tonight. We saw it in practice. I think he was in the top 3, and you know, that wouldn't be too big of a surprise to see him make a charge here throughout this race. It's a pretty long one.
Absolutely, and you know, I do want to give a shout out to One Up Games there on board the number 91. Ethan Stanley came into this series with no sponsor, really has been fairly dominant in just about every series that he's taken part in so far this year, picking up wins across multiple platforms, Lotus Cup, all the other NASCAR series that we run, and now he's got a sponsor on board. So shout out to One Up Games for their support of Ethan Stanley.
Absolutely, and anytime a driver brings a sponsor into the Elite Racing League or the Pit Pass Network ARCA series per se, it's really good to see these guys earn it every week, week in, week out. They're racing hard, racing for everything they can get.
Absolutely. Is to see Race First and Black Magic Designs on board the number 69 of Mark Murphy. Shout out to them for supporting Mark all season long across every series that he takes part in.
Ray Bracey in the wall, I think, off turn 4.
Ray Bracey may have grazed it a little bit. He's looking just fine there, continuing on in his Firefly machine. Another guy to give a shout out to here, 213 Simware sponsored William Wyatt, doing a nice job in his number 43 all season long. Has not broken into the win column, but would not be surprised to see him do so tonight. And just behind him, Pit Pass Network and KMP Graphics on board the number 42 of Chris Wright. Jay Kaner, he sponsors himself here, Wyatt. Let's get him a sponsor for Season 2. If you want to sponsor Jay Kaner, you can reach out to Elite Racing Network or Jay himself.
Absolutely. You know, we got a lot of guys here. A couple blank cars.
Warriors for Peace here on the Hunter Smith machine. Kind of gives me a reminder that this Thursday night we kick off our Warriors for Peace Dallara series here in the Elite Racing League. We're going to do radio-style broadcasts for that one, Wyatt, and that is going to be very interesting. We'll see how that goes, and shout out to Warriors for Peace. Check them out, Warriors for Peace.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm looking at the field right now, and we've spread out quite a bit, but a guy who's continuing to drop back is actually the 24, Michael Hossack. He's lost quite a few spots from the start of this thing. Might be saving a little tire. We're not too sure as of right now. I haven't seen him make any contact, but he might just be taking it easy. It's a long race for this series, and anything can happen.
He has definitely made contact. I believe he was the car that was up in the outside wall that you noticed, why, because his right side is looking all sorts of mangled right now. Unfortunate for Hossack. Hopefully he can get that fixed up. And I do want to point out again that these guys only have 3 sets of tires. The 1 set on the car to begin the race and 2 additional sets on pit road. Mark Keeler I do believe has fallen out of our server here tonight. Very close action here. Robert Smith, Michael Hossack. Smith on the inside of Michael Hossack here. That was a battle for position. Here's Chris Wright battling now with Jay Kaner. That is for the 4th position, while Mark Murphy has a threat from William Wyatt here. Wyatt was very close and just about past Mark Murphy, but now falls back into that 3rd spot. Jay Kaner and now ahead of Chris Wright as Wright falls back to that 5th position here. Biggest mover of the race, Ray Bracey, once again making a, oh my gosh, he's sideways on the high side of the racetrack as he battles David Carpenter. David Dunwoody, another big mover here, up 4 spots, started in 14th up to 10th right now. And like you mentioned, going the opposite direction, Michael Hossack after some early contact with the outside wall.
Yeah, it's a bad break for Hossack. He showed really great speed all season. You know, he's been in the top 5 a lot. And, you know, maybe he'll get a chance to get some of that fixed. Seems like quite a bit of damage, though. Should be able to get it fixed, but it might affect the handling of the car for the rest of the night.
Quite possible for sure. As we look on from our drone camera here, Brandon Ultra going for a move on the high side of Hunter Smith. We'll see if that pays off for the number 45 Brawny Machine. Star Spangled Banner on that Brandon Ultra car. He's done a great job all season long, shown a lot of patience, shown a lot of progress as well. As that's what this series is really about, Wyatt. It's an opportunity for multiple drivers to really grow and develop into competitive members of this elite racing league, and we've seen that out of guys like Michael Hossack, Ray Bracey. Ethan Stanley's really broken out of his shell here this season, and of course now a championship contender in the PitPassNetwork.com ARCA series. As we see a little bit of movement towards the rear here, this is a nice battle. That's Robert Smith up in the outside wall, Rory Collins, and the 44 of Mike Goodman going on past there. So Robert Smith with a bit of an issue early on. They're chasing down this 07 car, Tyler Skordensky, and the 22 of Andrew Hardcastle.
Yeah, that's a pretty good battle going on right now. You know, a lot of guys are single file. It looks like Hunter Smith is starting to come back, and he's working on Chris Wright. Might have saved those biscuits a little bit. No one else is super close other than the battle we saw on the screen, and Hunter Smith, Brandon Ultra, and Chris Wright.
Brandon Ultra chasing down the Hunter Smith machine. One thing that we have to keep an eye on here is guys pushing a little bit too hard early in the run. In my opinion, you're about halfway through your first tire required run here of about 40 laps or so. You definitely want to be able to split this race potentially into 3 when it comes to your tires. Pit lap 40, pit lap 80, make it to the end minimum, because you definitely want to be able to go past those times and have the freshest tires at the end of the race. This is heating up to a 3-car battle here. Hunter Smith looking to the outside of Chris Wright. I do wonder if Chris is either saving or has used up his tires.
Yeah, and there's actually another 3-car battle right in front of him for second place. Mark Murphy's starting to get reeled in by William Wyatt and Jay Kaner. William Wyatt took it a little easy. Looks like he's starting to make that run back on Mark Murphy.
One thing about William Wyatt we've seen all season long here, as Chris Wright and Hunter Smith are side by side, as is Jay Kaner and William Wyatt. With William Wyatt, he's had a lot of pace early on in runs. We've seen him get the pole, then lead a bunch of laps, and then he just fades a little bit because of the tires. So I wonder if maybe William Wyatt's approaching tonight's race a little bit differently, knowing that that's been his catalyst all season long. And it'll be interesting to see if William can maybe approach this a little bit differently and have a shot at the win.
Yeah, and he's doing a good job right now, but, you know, Chris Wright's starting to fall back. He lost another spot to Brandon Ultra, or he's still battling for it, but I think Brandon's going to get the edge here off the corner. Every position at this point is crucial for Chris Wright. Ethan Stanley can't go up anymore, so he just has to go out there, dominate the race, win the race, and hope Chris falls back. You know, I think Chris is probably saving a little tire still. I gotta assume he's been pretty good at it all season. But he's also been fast throughout the run. It seems like he's starting to fall back a little bit.
As we take a look here, you can see the dashboard of the Chris Wright car, 110 or so, 115 through the center of the corner, getting back up to speed here. Going to head down the back straightaway, top out about 143 or so compared to Brandon Ultra, going just a little bit quicker than Chris Wright here. So I really do wonder if Chris is trying to save a little bit more tire at this point, while Ethan Stanley continues to lead laps. He's racked up a couple bonus points here, getting himself a little bit closer to Chris Wright. So it'll be interesting to see what Chris's approach is here, because although we only have 18 starters tonight, Josh Personette did not start, there's a real opportunity if Chris's race does not improve much more than where he's running now, that Ethan Stanley could get enough bonus points to really tighten that gap on the championship.
Absolutely. And Robert, why don't you run through all the bonus points Ethan can earn right now by leading the race?
If you just give me one moment on that, Wyatt, why don't you walk us through this battle here, Jay Kane William White?
Absolutely. Looks like Jay Kane is peaking low here on William White. They've been kind of going back and forth. I've been keeping an eye on him. William White will get a run on Mark Murphy, dive it down low, try and get under him, but he can't complete the pass, and then Jay gets the run on him, not having to battle side by side. Now these guys are pretty close, running the high side through 3 and 4, side by side as they come across the start-finish line. Mark Murphy wants to see more of this in his mirror, absolutely. But these guys aren't going to be happy with 3rd or 4th. They're going to want to keep moving forward, so looks like Jay's going to let his tires cool down a little bit, and maybe give it another run here shortly if he's got the speed still. But here comes Hunter Smith actually in the 5th position, starting to catch him. Looks like he did a pretty good job of saving his tires.
One thing to point out here, Robert Smith on pit road. Wyatt, just to speak on the bonus points, there is potential for Ethan Stanley actually to pick up 3 bonus points tonight, leading a lap, leading the most laps, which he has done so far, and of course a 0 incident race. There are no bonus points for the race winner in this series in season 1. That may be introduced next season, but that is to be determined at this point. Lap 33, approaching the 1/3 mark of today's race. Ethan Stanley leading over Mark Murphy. We're going to take a run through the field here. Wyatt, your race leader, as mentioned, is of course Ethan Stanley leading over Mark Murphy. William White there in 3rd. That's Jay Kane in 4th, joining that battle. Hunter Smith in 5th. Brandon Ultra 6th. Chris Wright 7th. David Carpenter back there in 8th. In 9th, we find David Dunwoody. 10th, Michael Hossack. 11th, Ray Bracey. 12th, the good man, Michael Goodman Jr.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robert, but it looks like William White got around, or he's battling now. He almost got around Mark Murphy. Mark Murphy looked like he just missed the entry at turn 1 and almost hit the wall, but I think he's going to be clean for now. But he's got a lot of pressure behind him. Now, and there's contact. Jay Kane and Hunter Smith
Jay Kane, Hunter Smith, caution is out here after unfortunate contact. I think Hunter Smith just got the inside wall. Jay Kane just misses it here. We'll take a look on the RobilusPhotography.com replay machine to see what happened to Jay Kane and Hunter Smith here. You see Jay Kane chasing down the 69 of Mark Murphy here on the high side. Hunter Smith, the blue and black number 54, entering the picture on the bottom. Watch that number 9 car. The 54 comes up. Jay may have slightly come down, but Hunter came all the way up off of the bottom. I do believe Hunter Smith may have grabbed a piece of the wall. Actually, no, neither car hitting the inside wall. Should be able to continue on with very, very minimal damage to their race vehicles. As we'll take a look and see if anybody does opt to come down pit road. We may be approaching that point where you can come down and take a set of tires, as we see Ethan Stanley entering pit road here. Actually, we see a big Sunoco sign. Now we see Ethan Stanley coming down. Look, he mentioned it to me before the race. Chris Wright stays out. There is his bonus point. So now he closes the gap, or he extends his gap again over Ethan Stanley. So Chris will likely come down next time by, set himself back a little bit here. So very interesting idea by Chris Wright to make that call and get the bonus point. But now he's going to create a lot of work for himself.
Yeah, that one's pretty iffy. 38 laps in on a tire run to stay out there and then work your way back. You know, he's going to start at the tail end of the field now. Of course, that's going to probably put him in about 17th
As we
position.
see Wyatt, contact between the 54 of Hunter Smith and the 9 of Jay Kaner. Number 54 of Smith has been issued a tally. As the field is on pit road taking their pit stop, we will take pit stop number 1 here on the Elite Racing Network. Don't go anywhere.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And we are back here in the pitpassnetwork.com ARCA series. This is the Iowa 125. You did just hear from our friends over at iRacing.com as well as TA Services. TA is one of our great premier partners here in the Elite Racing League. Thank you to them for all of their support of all the Elite series. Shout out as well to Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. Worldwide Technology Raceway is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, home to a 1.25-mile oval, a 2-mile road course, quarter-mile drag strip, and a state-of-the-art karting facility known as the Kartplex. Check out Worldwide Technology Raceway today, Wyatt. And, of course, pitpassnetwork.com, your new home for all things motorsports, from news to reviews and interviews. Check out pitpassnetwork.com. Out on the racetrack, a quick run through the field here. Your race leader is currently Ethan Stanley, one of our championship contenders here. William Wyatt on the inside there, starting second. Mark Murphy, third. Hunter Smith, fourth. Brandon Ultra, fifth. Dave Carpenter, sixth. David Dunwoody there in seventh alongside Michael Hosick. As you see on his car, Rubilas Photo. Check out rubilasphoto.com for all your photography needs. Andrew Hardcastle and Mike Goodman there, 9th and 10th. Jay Kaner, Tyler Skordensky, Mark Rubilas, Rory Collins. Chris Wright going to restart 15th, our championship leader there. And Ray Bracey rounding out the 16 cars still in tonight's race. As we go back down to the racetrack, the pace car is off. Green flag back under the way, and Ethan Stanley with a magnificent restart there.
Absolutely. Looks like he caught William Wyatt sleeping a little bit, but, you know, these guys are going to be battling hard for these positions. As we've seen in this series, there's not a lot of cautions in any race. And I think we're just going to see a lot of guys battling real hard here, so this could create an opportunity for another caution, but one guy who doesn't want to see it right in front of him would be Chris Wright.
As we see, Chris Wright was peaking 3 wide there on Mark Robilas and Rory Collins. Chris actually falling another spot here to 16th as Ray Bracey able to get by the number 42 pitpassnetwork.com machine as Chris Wright trying to work his way back through the field. This could be a questionable move as he's 3 wide now. Mark Robilas, Ray Bracey, Chris on the bottom. Robilas now moves up top. Chris Wright back to 15th here as Robilas gets a little too high on the racetrack. Going back up front, Ethan Stanley has a pretty decent lead, 0.6 of a second over William Wyatt and Hunter Smith there. Mark Murphy in 4th, Brandon Ultra. There's Dave Carpenter, Michael Hosek, David Dunwoody, Andrew Hardcastle. As we see side-by-side battling right there. Actually, Tyler Skordensky gets back in line as Jay Kaner takes that 10th position. Skordensky doing a nice job in his debut race here tonight, just ahead of everyone's favorite person, Michael Goodman. Goodman running 12th ahead of Rory Collins, Ray Bracey. Here's Chris Wright trying to work his way back. And Mark Robilas rounding out the field currently, as it looks like we've single filed out fairly well at this point. Not too many great battles going on the racetrack. As you see Murphy and Ultra working the high line here. Carpenter kind of working the middle, looking high now. Here's Michael Hosek. Just looking through the field, Wyatt, not too many big battles.
No, not really. I'm a little surprised. I thought these guys were going to be going a little bit harder than they are right now.
Ooh, big moment there for Dunwoody. He's able to gather his car back up.
And he's doing a pretty good job tonight as well, running 8th right now. You know, one guy who's actually really performing quite great here tonight is Brandon Ultra. You know, he's running 5th. He's been in the top 6 or so, I think, majority of this race so far. Really good speed out of him tonight, Robert.
Yeah, first time I really got to see Brandon Ultra was when I was calling the Racing America Super Late Model Series alongside of Connor Sullivan. And, you know, it was really strong performance by the 45. He seemed to do fairly well. And now he's showing it here in the ARCA series. And hopefully that can transform over to the Upper Series Cup, Trucks, Xfinity, whatever he may run. It would be really nice to see that 45 just as competitive as here comes Dave Carpenter on the inside.
Yeah, and Dave Carpenter's been doing a pretty good job tonight as well, staying out of trouble. Racing hard, though. I mean, I think his preferred line is going to be exactly where Brandon Ultra is so far in this race, and it seems like a lot of these guys are gravitating towards the middle, which is a bit of a shock. Typically, the bottom is a little bit better to start the runs and save tires, but it seems like Dave Carpenter actually got quite loose there. He might lose another spot to, I believe that's Michael Hosek.
That is indeed Michael Hosek there on the outside, currently in the 6th position. That's exactly where he qualified tonight. Hosek up there. One thing to point out, Tyler Skordensky was 11th just a moment ago. He has now fallen to 14th as you see Chris Wright entering the picture. Chris, stuck in 15th, has not gained anything really since the restart. Just one position on Mark Robilas. So Chris Wright going to have his work cut out for him here with 74 laps remaining at Iowa. Ethan Stanley, his championship rival, continuing to lead. And one thing to point out at this point, Wyatt, if the race were to end right now the way they are, Ethan Stanley would be the champion, I believe, by 2 points over Chris Wright.
Yeah, I believe you're right, and no pun intended there. But there's a lot of racing going on the track right now that we may not have seen the only caution of the race. Typically, if we get one, it's like, okay, there's our one. But, man, some of these guys, like what you see on your screen right now at home, these guys are racing hard. And, I mean, they were single file at the beginning of this run, and all of a sudden these guys decided they were going to go now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Wyatt. As we see Dave Carpenter sliding back just a little bit. Jay Kaner, David Dunwoody there in the shot as well, just behind our tower. Entering now Michael Hosek Lots of nice battles here. Mark Murphy, Brandon Ultra heating up a little bit. That's for the 4th position, as Murphy currently holding that spot over Ultra. Ethan Stanley, no real pressure. 0.8 of a second is the gap back to William Wyatt. Another second back to Hunter Smith. And then Hunter Smith has about a 1.5 seconds back to Mark Murphy, who has a couple meters back to Brandon Ultra. And then not too far back, we find the conglomerate here of Hossack, Dunwoody, Kaner, Carpenter. And then a little bit of a gap back to Hardcastle, Collins, Bracey, Skordensky, Goodman, and Chris Wright. And one thing Chris has to be careful for here as he enters this larger pack is the potential for one of these cars to make a mistake.
We almost just saw it right there. Ray Bracey got extremely loose off the corner, and he was able to keep it together, but man, that thing was sideways. He did a good job keeping it straight, though, afterward.
Skordensky is struggling right now with the handling of that car as well. You can see every so often he seems to be grabbing the wheel, trying to straighten that 07 car back out, as actually Chris Wright nearly slides up the racetrack into the Skordensky machine. That is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on over this next little while here. Chris Wright gains another spot. Ray Bracey continues to battle an uncomfortable race car. Michael Goodman nearly into Ray Bracey, which would have quite possibly 3 wide. Skordensky makes a nice move around Michael Goodman there, but Chris Wright has to get clear of these guys. He needs a little bit of safety as Chris moves his way back into a battle for the 12th position with Ray Bracey. Here comes a very speedy Tyler Skordensky here, and with Skordensky being fairly new to this series, I'm not sure that anybody really knows him out here. He might not know that this championship battle is actually going on here.
Absolutely.
As he nearly makes contact with Ray Bracey.
I was going to say, he's putting it all on the line right now, and Chris is not going to be enjoying any bit of this. He says, get me around these guys. They can keep racing once I'm ahead of them. I don't care what happens at that point. But this battle's been insane, and he's been right in the middle of it the whole time.
As we ride on board with Tyler Skordensky, I'm just waiting for him to force 3 wide again as he looks to the high side. Look at how much wheel he's having to put into this car just exiting the corners. He is struggling right now with the balance of that number 07 machine. Skordensky is, as we look ahead to Ray Bracey, Chris Wright. Chris cannot clear the Bojo Bracey machine. Of course, Firefly Distilleries on board with Ray tonight, as Chris Wright now would move back into the championship lead. Ray Bracey with a crossover to the bottom. Bracey to the bottom, right to the top, chasing down Rory Collins here into turn number 3. Bracey getting a little bit tight as Chris Wright goes to the high side. Bit of draft here from Rory Collins. Watch for Chris Wright to look to the bottom. He does. Right to the bottom. Collins all the way to the outside, while Rory Collins doing a nice job here just outside the top 10, as Chris Wright now battling for the 11th position. Wright is able to get the spot from Rory Collins. Can he clear? Yes, he does. Chris Wright finally gets that little bit of breathing room that he so desperately needed.
Absolutely. You know, one thing to point out here too, Ethan Stanley has now locked up most laps led, so that will be another bonus point for Ethan Stanley.
This is getting very close here with Bojo Bracey and Tyler Skordensky. I would not be shocked if our last caution comes around these cars here, as Skordensky seems to be sending it very deep into these corners compared to Ray Bracey. I don't mean to be calling anybody out here. That's not my intention with this statement. It's just a very different level of aggression between the 07 and the 7, as well as the 44 of Goodman.
Yeah, and I think Goodman's a little bit nervous to be around these guys. It seems like he's giving them plenty of room, but the 07 is definitely driving the wheels off that thing. You got to imagine what the fall off will look like here. I believe we'll start seeing some major fall off in the next 10 laps or so on these tires, and the people that saved them will start to get a little bit faster than the other cars.
The one thing... Go ahead, Wyatt.
Oh, I was going to say, I believe, and this isn't an official thing, but I believe in 11th position, Chris Wright now is either tied or 1 point ahead of Ethan Stanley in the points.
I do believe that Chris is one ahead of Ethan Stanley, and I just checked the YouTube comments there. Shout out to Elite Race winner Scott Crump hanging out over there. Make sure you say hello to him. As he mentioned, Chris Wright seems to be struggling a little bit. Chris made the call to come down on a different strategy. Skordensky looks to the bottom of Ray Bracey. Now that becomes a 4-car battle. Mark Rubilis and Michael Goodman joining that fight here. Things getting very close. But as Crump mentioned, Chris is struggling a little bit, hanging out in the 11th spot. Very, very tight when it comes to that championship race. Here comes 3 wide. Rubilis was looking on the inside of Ray Bracey and Michael Goodman. 2 very comparable personalities, Goodman and Bracey, both exceptional people. Always enjoy talking to them, racing with them, and hoping for the best for both of them out here, as Ray Bracey battling a Slideways car there. Now Goodman to the bottom of Skordensky. Of course, yes, this is a little bit further back, but one of the best battles on the racetrack indeed. We're actually going to head up to the 4th place battle. Mark Murphy, Brandon Ultra and Kaner right there with Mark Murphy. Now looking for that 4th position. Ultra nearly into the rear of Mark Murphy. Murphy, of course, as he makes known, a bit of an insurance adjuster, so if someone gets into the back of him, he certainly knows who caused it. As Mark Murphy in the 4th spot right now, holding on ahead of Brandon Ultra. Jay Kaner on the bottom of the racetrack there. Michael Hosek hanging in the wings, doing a nice job, currently running in that 7th spot. I want to look at Chris Wright briefly. He is chasing down Andrew Hardcastle, looking for an opportunity to move back into the top 10, as his championship rival Ethan Stanley has a 1.5 second lead over William Wyatt. Another 0.8 of a second back is Hunter Smith. Smith involved in an earlier incident with Jay Kaner. And speaking of Kaner, Kaner's done a really nice job rebounding up into that 6th position here.
Yeah, absolutely. We are approaching 50 to go now, Robert. We haven't made these predictions yet, but there's 2 horses in this race for the championship, and they're both still running, both still clean. Who do you got?
Wyatt. I'm so used to talking with Chris on Mondays. Actually, let's just watch this battle right here. It's very tight between Ultra and Murphy. Just hoping that there's no wreck there, because these guys all deserve fantastic finishes tonight. Chris Wright, he started in the 5th position, took a strategy call to lead a lap. Now he's fallen back. Currently finds himself in a battle for the 10th position with Andrew Hardcastle. The more he battles, the more he's going to wear out his tires. And if it comes down to it, Chris Wright could be really, really off strategy when it comes to this next pit stop. So that might make things a little bit interesting when it comes to this championship battle. And Chris is going to have to do a lot more work than Ethan will at this point. But I just think entering tonight's race with that 15-point gap, although it's tight right now, I think the favorite has to be Chris Wright.
Yeah, there's 2 different sides of it too, and Chris has to really time it right, because we've seen these cars get pretty loose on fresh tires. Who's to say during the pit cycle, if it stays green throughout that time, we don't see someone slide, potentially bring out a caution, maybe trapping people laps down, or maybe not. Chris could get involved in that. He's 10 seconds back on the leader right now. If he pits before Ethan Stanley and gets trapped a lap down, it could be bad for him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Wyatt. I don't know that you made a pick there, but
I wasn't making a pick there. I was just talking off what you were saying. But if I were to make a pick, it's 15 points is a lot of points, and I think I'm with you. I gotta go with Chris. Ethan Stanley's been dominant all season, but a few bad finishes has definitely hurt his case to get this championship. But Chris has been so consistent. Out of the 8 races, of the 9, all top 5s. and too many second places to count. He's got a win on there at Kentucky. He's just been great all season.
Oh, Ray Bracey, Mark Robilas, both with a bit of a sideways moment there. One thing I do want to piggyback on your comments there about Chris Wright. He has been Mr. Consistency all season long. Like you mentioned, minus his drop week, Chris has been top 5 every single race. And although right now he might not be trending towards that result tonight, I do just think consistency has been key. And no matter who wins the title tonight, if it's Ethan Stanley, if it's Chris Wright, both of those guys very deserving of the title. Very fantastic people. I enjoy racing with both of them. I think they're both class act drivers on and off the racetrack, and I would be happy for either of them to take home the inaugural PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series title.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for 2 better guys to compete for the title, especially with a season-long point standings. I mean, these guys have just been so close to each other all year.
Ooh, nearly contact. Mark Murphy, Jay Kaner there. Hard racing for the 4th position. And one thing you mentioned was the season-long points title actually is Michael Hosek looking to make a move on Brandon Ultra there. Welcome Michael Hosek to the battle here. Next season, we will introduce a small playoff race in the PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series. So that'll be very interesting to follow along. We'll release more details in the coming weeks on that, but I just think it'll be very, very interesting to see how things work out when it comes to a season-long title or a playoff race.
Yeah, absolutely. Once we are able to release that, it'll be interesting to see. Looking at this battle, Jay Kaner finally got around Mark Murphy, and now Brandon Ultra is under him. I think Mark Murphy might have used every bit he had as they're actually almost dooring each other, and they might have. Sliding out of turn 4, and they're keeping it straight, man. These guys want that top 5.
So just taking a moment to talk about the next ARCA season, we will kick off June 13th at Charlotte, followed by a race at Iowa. We'll take a week off, then we'll go to Chicagoland, followed by Watkins Glen and Daytona. We'll go to Kansas Speedway, Bristol, and Talladega to round out the regular season. Then a 4-race title chase. It will be Richmond, followed by North Wilkesboro Auto Club, and we will settle the fight at Homestead. So that is going to be an exciting schedule for us, something that I'm very excited about. We also have a 2024A season confirmed. We're not going to release any details on that yet because that is still a good bit away, but rest assured that PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series is not going anywhere, and I hope you don't either, as we're going to head to another commercial break here. 40 laps remaining at Iowa Speedway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And we are back here at Iowa Speedway. This is the Iowa 125 in the PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series, our Season 1 finale here tonight. Chris Wright and Ethan Stanley battling for the title. You did just hear from our friends at iRacing.com as well as TA Services, one of our great premier partners here in the Elite Racing League alongside Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. Worldwide Technology Raceway is home to a 1.25 mile oval, a 2-mile road course, quarter-mile drag strip, and a state-of-the-art karting facility. Check out Worldwide Technology Raceway today. Of course, Robilus Photography, robilusphoto.com for all your photography needs, and pitpassnetwork.com, your new home for all things motorsports, from news to reviews and interviews. Check out pitpassnetwork.com. Wyatt Knadle, 34 laps to go here at Iowa. Ethan Stanley currently running in the first position. Chris Wright in 9th. They are a good bit into this pit cycle. Last pit on lap 37, so approaching 60 laps on this set of tires. One set remaining in the pits. Do you take that set of tires if you can make it to the end on fuel?
I'd say when they pit here, you have to take tires. I think the speed differential is
What if they can make it on fuel? Do you pit and take that set of tires?
Oh, no, you don't pit at all. No, excuse me. The only way you would pit is if you think you're going to have a flat. I don't think
speaking
these
of pits,
guys...
Here comes Rory Collins, pit road.
I was going to say, I don't think these guys can make it. I think this is going to start it. I think in the next 5 laps, we'll start seeing some of these leaders come down. They don't want to wait too long because they want to take advantage of those new tires. But
well, if you're Ethan Stanley right now, as we look off the nose camera, you do see a lapped car up ahead. I do believe that to be, yes it is, Ray Bracey just ahead of Ethan Stanley. So if I'm Ethan Stanley, I'm contemplating coming down pit road just prior to lapping that Bracey machine so I don't have to deal with lap traffic at all.
yeah, I agree with you. And one thing too is the other championship contender here, Chris Wright, he is in between cars right now. He doesn't have a whole lot of breathing room, so he's going to have to make that pit stop, assuming there is one. He's going to have to make that pit stop with traffic around him, so it's going to be very interesting. He's actually going to come up on the 62 car Rory Collins, but looks like Rory...
I believe Rory should be able to pull away here, as Chris is actually coming up on the David Carpenter machine here. Carpenter just ahead of Chris Wright. Chris up to 8th position now. Gained about 8 spots since his pit stop, so starting to pay off a little bit here for Chris Wright. But when it comes to the next pit stop, he's going to have a lot of work to do. He is 12 seconds or so behind Ethan Stanley. So if we do not get a caution, Chris Wright has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and this is an interesting spot for Chris, but it's also a very interesting spot for Ethan. It looks like the 07 might have had a little damage on the right side. He might have gotten up in the fence at some point throughout this run. But, you know, Ethan Stanley has 2 ways to think of this. He can make sure he wins the race undoubtedly, and he's got the lead to do that. He could pit whenever he wants if they need to pit. And then, you know, when it cycles out, he'll still have a lead. Or he can stay out and run it dry. And I think he would still have that lead. But that would also ensure the possibility of someone like Chris Wright going a lap down, which could really service Ethan Stanley for this championship hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything he can do to try to handicap the Chris Wright machine a little bit, he's definitely going to have to do. Speaking of Ethan Stanley right now, Stanley is trailing by a handful of points behind Chris Wright at this point in the championship fight. Let's take a look at the points once again entering tonight. Of course, Wright leading by 15 over Stanley, and the battle between William Wyatt, Hunter Smith, and Mark Murphy separated by 10 points. William Wyatt currently second, Hunter Smith currently running in the 3rd spot, Mark Murphy back in 5th. So these guys all staying together as well. William Wyatt trying to do what he can to hold on to the 3rd spot in points, and he's doing a nice job. But Hunter Smith trying to change that a little bit here, as Hunter Smith chasing down the 43 of William Wyatt.
You know, Rob, I'm starting to think these guys might think they can make it. I think this is a little too late to be pitting for as long as the run as it's been. I have heard nothing on the radios of these drivers that anyone's coming into pit road or they're planning anything. Usually you hear a little bit of chatter. I'm
Just
starting to wonder.
Quickly, Wyatt, Chris Wright just got by Dave Carpenter. Now he's chasing down Brandon Ultra and Mark Murphy just ahead. I do wonder if Chris Wright's been saving a fair bit here and now has an opportunity to pounce. Of course, 11 seconds is a lot to make up by the Chris Wright machine. Another shout out as well, Michael Goodman in a battle with David Dunwoody to move into the top 10. Goody doing a nice job there, but back to Chris Wright. You do see him in the 4-car battle for the 5th position. Murphy, Ultra, Wright, and Carpenter. As side by side is Mark Murphy and Brandon Ultra nearly making contact. These two have been very close all night long. I think Brandon Ultra just got into Mark Murphy right there with 21 laps to go. Murphy sideways catches it. Great save by Mark Murphy. Didn't even lose hardly a position, just half a spot, a millisecond on the racetrack. Chris Wright was thinking 3 wide. I was thinking that was not a good move. I won't say what I was thinking, but Chris Wright back in line here behind Ultra, behind Murphy, now to the bottom of both of them here. 3 wide, Ultra sliding up a little bit. Chris Wright now gets into the position. Chris has to be really careful, Wyatt, because we still have 15 cars on the lead lap, 16 cars still running of the 18 starters tonight. So if Chris Wright somehow finds his way into a wreck and potentially suffers catastrophic damage to his car, that could hand the title over to Ethan Stanley, who has done an absolutely amazing job tonight. Brandon Ultra very sideways right there ahead of Chris Wright. 19 laps remaining. Mark Murphy up into the outside wall. Murphy now going to fall back behind Chris Wright. Chris moves up into the 6th position, nearly just about takes himself out on the Mark Murphy machine as Murphy trying to regather his car. Ultra now up into the outside wall. These two, maybe they battled too hard and popped some right side tires.
Yeah, they've had these right sides and all 4 tires on for, upwards of, I believe, 80 laps now. We're getting close to that mark. And
very close, for sure.
Man, I don't know if these tires can hold on with how hard they've been racing. I'm actually surprised. I'm starting to believe they think they can make it to the end. This is way too late to be pitting if I'm someone like Chris Wright or something along those lines.
Well, if you're Chris Wright, you kind of have to match what Ethan Stanley's doing at this point, because you cannot risk going a lap down. If Chris Wright pit, Ethan Stanley didn't, Chris Wright goes a lap down, that could push him back to the 15th or 16th position, handing the title to Ethan Stanley. Brandon Ultra in the wall there, loses spots to Mark Murphy. Dave Carpenter just now getting released from the outside wall is Brandon Ultra, falls back into the 8th spot as Mark Murphy and Dave Carpenter setting their sights on Chris Wright. Wright has about 5 seconds ahead of him until he reaches the Jay Kaner machine, so chances are right now, if they can make it on fuel, Chris Wright will remain in the 5th position, barring any sort of incident, as Mark Murphy gets sideways again.
And we got a battle for 2nd right now. A couple of those lap cars with fresh tires allowed Hunter Smith to get outside of William Whyte, actually, and now these guys are going to be battling for 2nd.
Hunter Smith on the high side, William Whyte on the bottom. Hunter Smith does clear the William Whyte machine just barely, with a little bit of help from Ray Bracey. And actually, to point out, you said fresh tires, Wyatt, and that could not be more untrue, as Ray Bracey last pit on lap 40, so only 3 laps after our race leaders, who last pit on lap number 37. The only guy on even remotely new tires is Rory Collins, and he last pit on lap number 93, as we are 13 laps to go, coming to 12 to go here for Ethan Stanley. He has done absolutely everything that he has had to do tonight. He's led the most laps. I think he's one of only 2 cars to actually lead laps tonight, with Chris Wright being the only other one under caution. And then he's definitely led the most laps, as, like we said, nobody else has really led. He's on track to being victorious again, but Chris Wright running in 5th right now. Nobody around him here, as we have a battle brewing now. Michael Goodman, Brandon Ultra for the 8th spot. Ultra, of course, was in the outside wall not too long ago. Goodman looking for a great finish here. Going to try to clear the Ultra machine to move up into the 8th spot. Move Goodman up to 8th, just ahead of him. Dave Carpenter just got a piece of the outside wall. There's Mark Murphy. Chris Wright currently running solo there in 5th, exactly where he started. 10 laps to go for Ethan Stanley, as we see him going around turn number 2 down the back straight away. Gonna be 9 to go momentarily here. Hunter Smith doing a nice job, was able to clear the William Whyte machine. Actually has about a second over him here. Looks like Michael Hossack losing a couple spots, as this is a battle here. Andrew Hardcastle just ahead of David Dunwoody, Mark Rabilas, and Michael Hossack. If I'm Chris Wright, I'm really hoping for no caution here, as that could really change things. But Ethan Stanley's actually just behind this large group of cars, actually just 4 cars, but still a battle nonetheless. That is 13th, 12th, 11th, and 10th all together here, just ahead of race leader Ethan Stanley. So that could also change things, Wyatt, if one person happens to slide up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in the off risk that something does happen, Ethan Stanley might want to keep his distance a little bit. He's got 5 seconds of clearance, so he's in no major hurry. And then on top of it, he wants to keep as many cars on the lead lap now as possible to potentially influence the amount of spots that Chris Wright could lose if there is a restart.
That's exactly it. Chris Wright 13 seconds back. I believe Hunter Smith just got a piece of the outside wall, as we see Dave Carpenter and Michael Goodman battling now. Move Goodman up into the 7th position, chasing down 6th place Mark Murphy here. So Goodman coming alive late here in the running of the Iowa 125 in the Pit Pass Network.com ARCA series. Move Goodman ahead of Carpenter there, nearly into each other, which likely would have triggered a caution flag. 6 laps to go for Ethan Stanley. He's coming around to 5 laps remaining in season 1 of the Pit Pass Network.com ARCA series. Wyatt, as we do approach these last 5 laps, what a season it's been, my friend.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing season. And, you know, there's a whole lot of things we can say with the cleanliness of these guys, how hard they race, the caution-free races. We've had multiples. But, man, it's just been so fun to watch. I mean, it doesn't matter what track we're at. It seems like these guys are all driving hard, all driving clean. And we're just having a great time being up here in the booth, watching these guys, talking about them. I couldn't be happier with this season. And, you know, at this point in time with our 2 championship contenders, it's leaning in Chris Wright's favor for now. But, you know, hats off to both those guys as well.
3 laps remaining for Ethan Stanley to pick up.
And there's a wreck on the backstretch.
Mark Murphy involved. David Carpenter also involved. Cautions out. This may change everything or nothing, as we'll take a look on the Robilis Photography replay machine. Wow. You see right here, Mark Murphy on the bottom, David Carpenter up top. You do see Murphy comes up into Dave Carpenter. Unfortunately, both of them go around, hard impact to the inside wall, then back into the Dave Carpenter machine. So Mark Murphy with a fair bit of damage. What in the world is the call here, Wyatt? Do you come down pit road and take that final set of tires?
I think you have to. I don't think there's a question about it. I think everybody's going to come down. Chris is still in really good shape, though. There's only 9 cars on the lead lap after that incident. Those 2 cars there that Ethan needed on the lead lap, he ended up lapping as they were wrecking. Now, it looks like Ethan Stanley stayed out. Everyone's staying out.
It is indicating the final lap of this race. White flag is actually in the air for Ethan Stanley. I wonder if it's some sort of glitch here that did not give the green-white checkered attempts. Wow.
Wow, imagine if Chris had gone in.
That could have been a game changer there had Chris Wright pit. Unfortunately for these guys, does look like the season will end under caution due to a server glitch that has unfortunately prevented the green-white checkered attempts. Ethan Stanley will take the victory here tonight over Hunter Smith, Jay Kaner, William White, and our champion of Season 1 of the PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series, Chris Wright. Checkered flag is indeed in the air. Looks like unfortunately, like I mentioned, the server has had an issue. But Ethan Stanley gonna take a victory. Chris Wright gonna take a title.
Take his 9th top 5 of the season.
As you see right there, we are gonna try to get our results on the screen momentarily. As Chris Wright gets wrecked by Michael Goodman there to celebrate that title. Pulling up the results, Ethan Stanley, your winner. Hunter Smith, Jay Kaner, William White, Chris Wright, the top 5. Michael Goodman, Brandon Ultra, Mark Rabilis, Andrew Hardcastle, David Dunwoody, the top 10. Mark Murphy, Michael Hosick, David Carpenter, Tyler Skordensky, Ray Bracey, Rory Collins, Robert Smith, and Mark Keeler rounding out the field. Let's see what these two boys do here as Chris Wright takes the title. Ethan Stanley takes the championship. A little bit of a handshake there amongst those two.
You got to love to see that. That was awesome.
As they both burn it down on the racetrack. Really cool to see. Congratulations to both of these guys. Unfortunate that they didn't get a chance to get going again, but congratulations to both. As we do wait our podium drivers here to get up into the booth with us here, we're going to send it to a commercial break as we gather the podium finishers.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.
And we are back here. It is the Iowa 125 in the PitPassNetwork.com ARCA Series. Just wrapped up here. Ethan Stanley taking the victory over Hunter Smith and Jay Kaner, while Chris Wright taking the inaugural championship. We do have in the booth standing by, actually, is our second place driver tonight. Third place driver, I do apologize. Jay Kaner standing by with Wyatt Knadle.
Jay Kaner, Wyatt in the booth. You got a copy?
I do. What's going on, guys?
Hey man, we had a blast. We had a blast watching this race. You drove up through the field on that final run, man. Tell me about how that car was handled and how you were able to make so many passes.
Yeah, honestly, after getting spun there, I threw the whole tire strategy out the window and just figured that starting from that far back, I had to run as hard as I could. And the last probably 7 or 10 laps was the right front was pretty much gone. So I used it up coming up through there, but I figured if it went green like it felt like it was going to, that I would have had to start, getting moving early. So just, didn't have enough time there.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it close on fuel there? We were speculating a pit stop between lap 90 and 100, but we were far wrong. Did not realize you guys could make it to the end there.
Yeah, I think I had 7 or 8 laps left, and then when I thought we were going to have a green-white checker, I was only going to throw a couple gallon in it just to be sure. But I think I had 2.1 gallon left coming to that last caution, so definitely could have made it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had a great race tonight, third place, no stranger to being in the top 5. And, how do you feel about your season? The season's over. We got to look forward to season 2. Are you going to be racing with us again next season?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is definitely fun. I like this style of car and this guy racing here, and signed up for Xfinity and the ARCA for the second season, so we'll be back for it.
Awesome, Jay. Well, before I let you go, congratulations on your third place. But do you have anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, no sponsors. Every week that I get to talk to you guys, I always forget to give a shout out to a good friend of mine and my neighbor Pete. He watches every week with us on Monday and Tuesday nights, and he's always busting Brandon's butt for his finishing position there. And I told him that no matter what, if I got to talk to you guys today, that he'd be the shout out that I gave. So.
Absolutely. I mean, hello, Pete. Thank you for following along with us. We appreciate it, of course. And, congratulations once again, Jay Kaner, third place tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Shout out to Pete. That was Jay Kaner, our third place finisher tonight. Now standing by once again with Wyatt as our race winner, Ethan Stanley.
Mr. Stanley, Wyatt in the booth, you get a copy?
Yeah, I do.
Well, man, you did everything right. Absolutely everything coming in the championship race here. You dominate the race, lead all but a handful of laps. You win the race. Going to be a few points short in the championship, though. First off, congratulations on another win. It's well-deserved. You dominated. But tell us how you're feeling here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling all right. I mean, happy to get another win. I kind of pulled away from everybody at the end there. Yeah, I knew coming into this race it was going to be a miracle if I'd win the championship. Chris was just so far ahead in the points. With those couple races I had where I got wrecked out, I just didn't have the points at the end there.
Right, and under that first caution in the mid-30 lap range, we saw him stay out and lead a lap there for the point, and everybody else came down pit road, which restarted him in the back. And he struggled a little bit coming up through the field. Were you monitoring that? What were your thoughts on that?
I didn't pay any attention to where anybody was except for the 2 cars behind me, just because, I mean, it really was, the race wasn't up to me, it was up to him. As long as I'd keep it up in front, it just depends on where he finishes and how he runs. I wasn't too concerned about it.
Absolutely. And when you look throughout the season here, do you have anything you specifically want to make note of on what you're proud of, or anything you could have done different? I mean, there's not a whole lot of you could have done different, really. I mean, you dominated races, you were fast everywhere. But, do you have anything that sticks out to you as far as what you're proud of for this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is win number 6 on the season, if you include Richmond in that. Yeah, I was just really enjoying the car all season. Enjoyed some of the tracks we went to. Really, my favorite one of all of them was Montreal. Made my way through the field. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, overall, just a really fun season. Had a good time racing against Chris. Me and him have no beef at all. And yeah, just coming out of it pretty happy.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing to look back on and say, dang, I wish I would have done this different or anything like that. You just had an amazing season. But, you got a lot of TV time tonight, so that feels good, but that's kind of a common trend. I don't even know if you're going to be allowed to race next season with our limitation and requirements, with how many wins you've gotten this year, man.
I don't think I am allowed either. I think this is my 10th overall elite win, so definitely not allowed. I wish I could because I really love driving these cars, but hopefully we get some kind of Gen 4 series at some point. That'd be a lot of fun.
That is definitely something a lot of people are asking for. But, before we let you go, Ethan, congratulations on another win tonight. Do you have anybody you want to shout out?
Oh yeah, just a big shout out to One Up Games and Repairs, based in Bay City, Michigan. If you're ever in the area, check them out for your video game and electronic repair needs. And also a big shout out to you guys and everybody that made this series happen.
Well, man, it wouldn't be a series without the drivers, and you were one of them that was the most fun to watch all season long. We thank you very much, of course. And before I let you go, I just want to say for us up here in the booth, thank you for being awesome in the interviews. Thank you for, putting on a show every race we went to, and thank you for being such a good, clean driver. Made these races fun to watch. Everyone in the field did, but when we talk to you almost weekly, you're a major focal point of the broadcast. So thank you very much, and congratulations on your win, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'll see you around.
That was Ethan Stanley, our championship runner-up and race winner tonight. Now the man of the hour. I guess we can call him a man. It is Chris Wright, our champion and my broadcast partner on Monday night. Chris, congratulations, buddy.
Thanks, guys. I hope the race was good. It was a lot more green than I thought it would be. Everybody kind of was racing pretty smart. Cars were a little bit loose, but man, can't believe we are a champion and elite. That's pretty cool.
Damn right it is, man. You raced so well all season. Mr. Consistency for sure. Top 5 in every race except for your drop week. So always nice to have that drop week, and picked up a victory this season as well. Looking back on the season as a whole, how do you feel about, obviously, excitement, but do you think you learned a lot that you can take over to the other Elite Series?
No. There's so little horsepower in these cars. This was kind of its own series. It was a lot of fun. The car is a lot of fun to drive. It'd be great. I'm going to go ahead and say this now. I don't know if Chad's watching or not, but I would love to see like a Gen 4 series. Keep the ARCA series the way it is. I don't think Ethan or myself will be allowed to come back, but do something with the Gen 4 cars. Those are a lot of fun to drive. I think those would bring in the people, be a popular series, and this car, even with the less horsepower that it has, it's still a lot of fun to drive. But just from what I've done in the Gen 4 car itself, it's with the extra horsepower, it's such a fun car to be able to drive and move around. So I don't think I learned anything to take with me anywhere else. The most I've learned is that Ethan is really good, and now he's showing that in other series, and some of these other guys who are getting better are going to be, you look at a guy like Jay or Hunter Smith, who's ran really well. William, the 43 out there, he's ran really strong. So I that's what I take away more, is getting to race with those guys and understanding how they race and what they're going to do on the racetrack and whatnot, more so than taking anything as far as like, this worked in the ARCA car, so I'm going to try it in my Cup car. I don't see any of that.
No, of course, definitely a lot of the racing itself doesn't really translate over to the upper series, but having the opportunity to learn a bit more about some of these drivers that you might not normally get to race around, like you mentioned, Hunter, Jay, William White, even the likes of Michael Hossack and others that really kind of showed some strength this season, and someone like Ethan Stanley that broke out of his shell. But looking back at your season, Chris, obviously picking up the title, believe this is your first title in Elite, so that's pretty cool. You get to join the ranks of many greats in the league, Tyler Fody, Tate Lytle, Chad, and others. But
look, you said that, not me. I don't say this title means a lot. It's cool to win this title and everything, but those guys won it against all those guys that weren't allowed to race in this series. So yeah, I take away that I've won the title, and I think that's really cool, and I'm super happy about obviously winning the title. But Tyler Fody wasn't out there to race with me, or Tate wasn't out there, Ethan Burrell. Like, there was, Ethan Stanley was out there, and he's obviously, he hasn't stopped winning since he started winning. So maybe I would have liked to have won a couple more races this season than just the one. But Ethan was out there, and he took home a lot of hardware, but we were consistent enough to bring home the big trophy at the end.
Absolutely, and I'm going to hand it over to Wyatt Knadle for some final thoughts here.
Yeah, Chris, I just want to say congratulations, buddy. You deserved it. You know, you couldn't get any better than you did pretty much all season, except you could have gotten a few more wins in the win column. But beyond that, you know, congratulations, man. You made this series very fun to watch, and I appreciate being able to talk to you before, after, and, you know, throughout the weeks, whatever. I have had a blast watching you. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Wyatt. It's been a lot of fun. I want to give a shout out here real quick to Pit Pass Network. I know Pit Pass Network and Robert's really kind of the whole reason that this ARCA series is here. So I want to give a kudos to him, and then you, Wyatt, for coming on board. Everybody at Elite Racing Network and Dave Huckleberry. I know Dave is here. He's not saying much right now, but he is here, and he keeps everybody at Elite Racing Network. I've learned from Mondays that this doesn't all happen really easy like you would think it does. So everybody there, Chad down, as far as Chad Frankenfield goes, and all the different stuff he does. So kudos to everybody for helping make this happen. And kudos to my team. I've already been congratulated. Fody's already messaging me. Gavel, so all the boys back at Lake Norman, Nick Massey, Gavel, Fody, Josh Robbins over there, Kwame, and so all those guys, Josh Adams, Jake Adams, all those guys have been helping me a whole lot this season and helping me get better as far as doing some things I need to maybe do different on some of these tracks in this ARCA car. But it's been a lot of fun. K&P Designs, almost forgot him. Kendall Noah player. Anything you need done, hit him up. He designed this cool looking 42 scheme that's out here tonight that I don't believe will be allowed to come back in the fall season. So you have to check us out on Wednesday nights. And it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun to be able to win this championship and running this car. So I can't wait to watch these guys do it. I already told Jay, and those guys, William and Hunter Smith, they're going to have to be the guys to put on the show this next fall season, so they're going to have to get out there and take the place of me and Ethan, and I'm sure they will. They've all gotten really good and got a lot of speed. Hunter was the only guy I think who could stay close to Ethan tonight, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun without Ethan and myself there in the fall. I think we're still going to see some great racing.
Well, Chris, congratulations on the championship and a great season all around. And best of luck to you tomorrow night here on the Elite Racing Network at Daytona.
Thanks, boys.
Well, Wyatt, that was Chris Wright, our champion here in season number 1. And, before we head off here, I want to give you the opportunity to have the floor here and say a few words about this season.
I mean, I say it kind of every week, I'm just proud of everybody who's been racing it, but for something that was an experimental deal that you put together really, but there's a little bit of help along the way, I think it was a major success. I think we saw guys who really were able to gain some skill and gain some better understanding of stock cars, run a little faster, get their chance in the limelight, and I'm excited to see it again next season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Wyatt. As I take a look at the final standings and the points, Chris Wright did take the title by 8 over Ethan Stanley, 50 over William White, 55 over Hunter Smith, and 66 over Mark Murphy. Running out the top 10 was Jay Kaner, Ray Bracey, Michael Hossack, Brandon Ultra, and Jordan Owens. So congratulations to all of those drivers and every single driver that took part in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series this season. We had, looking at it now, we had 61 different drivers make a start in the series. That's pretty cool for a new series and something that was really a brainstorm late night between myself, you, Josh Personette, John Cutlip, and of course Chad for allowing us to run this under the Elite banner. Thanks to Dave Huckleberry, like Chris said, for everything he does behind the scenes. pitpassnetwork.com. Shout out to Cash James, Jake Finch, the whole team over there for everything they do. Shout out to TA Services, Blue Egg Marketing, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Pit Lane Cards did a race for us this year as one of our race sponsors. Shout out to you, Wyatt, of course, for being here on the broadcast with me all season long. And of course, everyone at home that tuned in, watched these races with us, and really encouraged us to continue going, continue putting on these shows. And I can't wait for season number 2 to come up here in just a few months' time, or a month and a half or so, when we get going again at Charlotte with season number 2. Be sure to tune in to the Elite Racing League Twitter and Discord for information regarding that second season. We hope to have some eligibility information out, as well as race lengths and whatnot. But thank you to everyone once again for tuning in. And for Wyatt Knadle and myself, this has been another production of the Pit Pass Network ARCA series here on the Elite Racing Network. We'll see you tomorrow night here in the Cup Series. Join APS.com Cup Series for the regular season finale, live from Daytona with Dave Huckleberry and the talented Alexander Ned. Have a good night, everybody.